Let's begin. Good afternoon and welcome to 185th CPRCSH Urban Workshop. Today we have with us G. Mathi Vatanan and Shubhagato Dasgupta, who will be speaking on their recently co-authored book titled Decentralization and Empowerment, the Odisha Model for Urban Development. Before they speak, let me briefly introduce today's speakers. G. Mati Vatanan is a senior IS officer of Odisha cadre, presently posted as director of the State Administrative Training Institute and head of Center of Good Governance in Odisha. Previously, he has served as additional chief secretary of Department of Housing and Urban Development, where he led a variety of initiatives, including the Jaga Mission and the 24 into 7 drink from tap water supply program. Under his guidance, Odisha has achieved 100% water supply, house connections in 105 cities out of 115, and Puri and Gopalpur have become the only two towns in India to achieve a 24 into 7 drink directly from tap quality water supply system. He's also promoting city-wide inclusive sanitation in all 115 cities of Odisha. These initiatives have earned him global recognition, for which he has received the World Habitat Award in 2019 and 2023, Global Water Leader Distinction Award in 2022, and WRI Ross Prize for Cities Award in 2022. In 2024, he also authored the book titled People First: How Odisha's Drink from Tap Mission Quenched Every Thirst, which was published by Rupa Publications. Shubhagato Dasgupta is an urban professional with over 30 years of analytical and operational experience in India and across Asia and Africa. He has worked in public, private, multilateral, non governmental, and academic organizations. In the public sector and with multilateral organizations, he has been involved in drafting national policies, supporting the setting up of retail housing finance, institutional restructuring, and project evaluations. He also played a key role in developing pro poor urban housing policies and supported implementation across 15 Indian states. In the private sector, Shubhagato led private investment in urban infrastructure projects and structured a number of flagship urban infrastructure and housing public private partnerships. Shubhagato is trained as an architect at the for Environmental Planning and Technology in Ahmedabad and holds an MSc in Housing and Development Planning from University College, London. He's also a PhD candidate at University of Amsterdam. He has authored several journal articles, and his first book, which is a co authored book, Social Innovation and Urban Sanitation in India Meeting Unmet Needs, was published by Routledge in 2023. So as I already told, you'll get 40 to 45 minutes to speak and followed by Q&A. And to our participants, you can ask the questions to our speakers after they conclude the talk, or you can type your questions in chat box, which we can read out later on. Over to you. Thank you.
Shubhakato, you can start. Is it audible?
Right.
Is it visible now?
Visible, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a delight to be here in this extensive series that has gathered so much attention. The 185th one is surely means it's a proud privilege for us to be speaking here. This book was published earlier this year in January, and it essentially spans over the work undertaken in Odisha over the period of 2014 to 2024. Mr. Mathivatnan was the head of the department of the Housing and Urban Development Corporation there, and we from CPR under the Sci-Fi program were actively engaged in the state over this period. So the book kind of talks about how much of the work that was implemented there, and as Rama mentioned, highly awarded, was conceived and developed, and what kind of principles does it kind of demonstrate to be successful in particular contexts? Next slide, sir. Orissa is one of India's lower urbanized states among the large states. However, it has been urbanizing steadily. It's means it's come a long way since the 1950s, but it still has some way to go in the urbanization process. There are 115 urban local bodies, and much of Orissa's urban population growth is essentially happening in its secondary cities. There are only 5 municipal corporations in the state, and but it is expected, to expand its urbanization in the coming decades. Next slide. The As mentioned, much of its growth is in secondary cities and smaller cities. There is a lot of migration into cities of that size. The population is young. The demographic is getting younger. So however, consistent spatial inequality existed as captured in 2011. And but urbanization's share in economic development of the state has also been rising and is disproportionate to the population. So for sure, productivity in urban areas is higher than that in rural areas. Next slide, sir. Means the urban governance in Odisha therefore has not seen too much attention in the past. Historically, of course, it has had some very well planned cities. Bhubaneswar itself is a modern planned city by Otto Koningsberger. That means though it's had periods where cities did get some focus, and even historically in ancient times, there were periods when the cities got a lot of attention. In the recent past, since independence and since industrialization in India, much of the attention on urban development in Orissa is from this period that we are going to discuss with you about. There is and as mentioned, therefore, the cities were underfunded. There was a lot of need to, as a starting, improve transparency and service delivery in cities in general. And affordable housing, poverty alleviation were kind of central to the agenda of urban governance in Orissa, starting around 2014. Next slide, sir. The administratively, Orissa's Urban Housing and Urban Development Department is central to urban governance. It provides oversight as well as financing for smaller cities, especially, but also writes all the rules and makes sure that the various parastatals working under it serve citizens in more broadly. Right from Orissa Water Supply and Sewerage Board to the Housing Directorate or the Urban Development Authority, the State Urban Development Authority. But this is quite typical for an administrative setup in India. I'll now hand over to Mr. Mathivatnan to take us through the programs that were implemented in Orissa, which the book discusses in a great deal of detail. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Shubhagato. Thank you. Thanks to CPR for giving this opportunity. The book captures the journey of the Department of Housing and Urban Development from 2014 onwards till 2024 for a 10-year period. And the department focused on the basic urban challenges the cities face. These challenges are common to both India as well as the cities in the developing countries. So some of these challenges I have listed here: the slums, the issue of slums, the issue of access to clean water, issue of lack of access to toilet, and the issue of open defecation, contamination of water and soil by the municipal waste, solid waste, as well as the liquid waste, and the plight of these scavengers, manual scavengers, sanitation workers. So the transformation started from the year, say, we can say about 2015 onwards, and it has been a progressive journey. We first started with the food security program, which we implemented in the year 2015. We launched a program called AHAR to provide subsidized meal program at an affordable cost of, say, 5 rupees. And we started that in 5 major cities in Odisha on a pilot basis in 2015. And within a year, that program has been scaled up to cover all 115 cities within a year time. And food is provided during the lunchtime as well as during the dinner time. And most of these centers are located in the hospitals and high footfall places like bus stand, railway station, offices, market complex, those kind of areas. The idea is to ensure that the informal workers and then those who are who can't afford food can depend on this. 2016 we took up that liquid waste management in the cities, and in 2015-16, Central Pollution Control Board published a report saying that 19 river stretches in Odisha, major river stretches in Odisha, are highly polluted, highly contaminated, and unfit for consumption of even animals. So that has become a major challenge for us, and we were under pressure, and we took up that as a challenge, and then we went in for the fecal sludge treatment system, FSM, and Odisha implemented that as the first state in the entire country, and later on it got incorporated into the Swachh Bharat mission, and now it's being implemented in all over. 2017 we took up 2 major initiatives. One is access to clean water as well as tackling the slum issues. And first we took up the slum issue to empower the slum dwellers by granting land rights in situ, and water also we took up in October 2017. The objective was to ensure every household in every city get a house connection and access clean, safe water. So that was our mission that we started, and the program was called Basudha. Then in the slum empowerment, we went on to the next level of transforming slums through upgradation of the infrastructure, amenities, and services, phase 2. And then the access to clean water also, we later moved on in 2019 to drink from tap 24/7 water supply, which got commissioned in the year 2021 onwards. Then we took up Garima, and then later during COVID, we took up the urban wage employment initiative. 2020, we also took up the solid waste management, transforming the way solid waste were managed in the city level. First, we'll talk about the slum dwellers challenge of slum dwellers and slums in cities. The problems were similar to rest of the country. Our slums also lacked basic infrastructure and amenities, and they were the epicenters of urban poverty. And absolutely, there was no non-existence of governance policy, effective planning in the slum areas. We took up this by enacting Odisha Land Rights to Slum Dwellers Act in the year 2017, and this was based on the realization that the slum dwellers are the backbones of the cities. They provide all the services. They deserve dignity, and we need to focus on slums. The question before us was to evict them by treating them as encroacher, treating the slums as encroachment, or should we empower them with the land rights and dignity of life. The state government in 2017 decided to empower them with the land rights. The Slumdwellers Act has been enacted and implemented. Now, more than 257,000 families have been granted with the land rights on in situ basis. And Odisha is the only state which implemented the land rights program on in situ basis. And then thereafter, this has been, there was convergence with the Prime Minister's Awas Yojana to provide house building support also. And granting the land rights ensured the end of the eviction and harassment threats for the slum dwellers. Soon we realized that just giving land rights will not lead to transformation of their life and their livelihood. Then immediately we took up a program to upgrade their infrastructure, amenities, and services in the slums. And that program is called Adarsh Colony Program. Now, more than 1,654 slums have been transformed to other colonies with upgraded infrastructure, amenities, and services. When I say that upgraded infra, the slums have the pakka constructed roads, drains, access to clean water at every home through tap connections, individual household toilet at every home, solid waste management, door-to-door collection to manage the solid waste, LED street lighting, children's play area, common community center, all these things part of the Adarsh colonies. And now more than 98% of the households have tap water connection at home in the entire state, covering all the 115 cities. And more than 88% of the houses now have individual toilets. We have leveraged this Swachh Bharat mission as well as brought in additional subsidy from the state. All these things have been done in complete partnership with the slum dwellers. The beginning of the empowerment process has been to form the slum dwellers into slum dweller association, recognizing them, and then working through them, working with them. And the entire process, starting from land rights to upgradation to operating and manage the assets in the slums, have been done through the slum dwellers association. And we have amended the municipal acts to provide earmark 25% of the urban local bodies resources for the upgradation of the slums. As part of the empowerment, we trained more than 30,000 slum dweller association leaders, slum leaders, the executive committee members of the association, and trained them as fourth tier of government. And the municipal corporations have signed MOUs with the individual slum dweller association. The MOUs have been signed between the commissioners of the municipal bodies and the president of the slum dweller association, which recognizes, the MOU recognizes the critical role of the slum dweller association, recognize them as the partner in the development and governance process to pave way for further decentralization and devolution of powers and responsibilities. And out of the 30,000 leaders trained, 15,000 are women. And these are the transformed slums. Some of them you will find in here. The focus has been on the children. We realize that the investment we make in the slums, the land rights we give, the house upgradation we facilitate, and the infrastructure, amenities, and services we ensure provided in these slums results in the children going to schools regularly, getting enrolled, and we are investing on the children's life. Next issue which we focused was on the solid waste management to address the garbage issues in the cities. The garbage condition has been similar to any other cities. Complete absence of the treatment facilities. There was no system available. And the practice has been collect the garbages, truck it and dump it. We didn't have the processing facilities in the state. So we found garbage dumps everywhere, smaller to medium to large. The larger the city, largest is the dump yard. And there was complete absence of system regulations and enforcement in the solid waste. We made the paradigm shift in 2020. We went in for a decentralized management of the solid waste. Yeah, micro composting center has been established at a cluster level, combining for few wards and the material recovery facility for managing the dry waste, MCC for managing the wet waste. Together, we call them as the well center. These well centers have been created within the city, not on the outskirts of the cities. For few wards, one cluster has been created, and we selected the women self-help group, transgender groups from that, and the rat pickets group from the locality, trained them, capacitated them, and then now all these centers are being managed by these women and transgender advocates groups, end-to-end management. And the improvement in solid waste management you can find in 2019, the state was at 30th position in the Swachh Sarvekshan 2019. And from there, we came up to 4th position in 2023 throughout the state. In respect of solid waste management, we always say that it's not one or two cities which do exceedingly well in Odisha. It has been the story of all cities universally doing well. The next issue which we took up was the liquid waste management. In the year 2015, only 2.5% of the human waste have been treated in the cities. Even the state capital Bhubaneswar did not have an underground sewer system. In the year 2015, later part of 2015, Puri city had got, Puri just having 2.5 lakh population, has got the first functional sewer network system. Then we took up that underground sewer system in the major cities, and we went in for the fecal sludge treatment, decentralized, adopting the decentralized approach. Before that, it was completely discharged. As I was mentioning, that in 2015, we came across a report of the Central Pollution Control Board, and there were cases in the NGT and Supreme Court that the major river stretches in Odisha have been highly contaminated, unfit for the consumption of even animals. So we took it up as a challenge, and then went in for that fecal sludge treatment plant construction of that in the medium and small towns, and for the major large towns we went in for underground sewer system. And now all the 115 cities have the fecal sludge treatment facilities on saturation mode. Another 19 facilities have been set up. These are some of the photographs of those facilities. And Odisha was the first state to go for adopt this approach and to commission the first 6 FSTP plants. Then the Government of India Secretary, Additional Secretary, and the senior officials of the ministry visited, and then they got convinced about the effectiveness of this approach, and then it got into the Swachh Bharat Mission framework. And all these fecal sludge treatment plants are operate and managed by the women self-help group and transgender groups. And many of our groups are national award winners. As I said, we have not only saturated with creation of the treatment capacities in the urban areas, we also are these facilities also extend services to the rural areas. Now, 60% of the rural areas of the Odisha state are serviced by the urban fecal sludge treatment plants through the urban-rural convergence model, which has now been adopted by Government of India. And out of 19 highly polluted river stretches, 12 have come out of the pollution category. You can find that in the 2022-23 Central Pollution Control Report. It's there in the website. And remaining 7 river stretches have moved sharply from critically polluted to mildly polluted. I'm sure in the coming months, these also would come out of the highly polluted category. And this is the group which is managing our Bhubaneswar fecal sludge treatment plant facility. It's a transgender group managing the largest fecal sludge treatment plant of the country, treating 75,000 liters fecal sludge a day. And the leader of the group, the lady who is leading this team, has also become the the Women Change Maker Award winner given by FICCI for the sanitation program. And behind these sanitation programs, we have sanitation workers, scavengers, the hidden, the invisible, who get into the sewer networks, septic tanks every day, and many of them don't come out alive. That's the plight of the sanitation workers in the country. And due to absence of safety, there is absolutely no dignity and recognition for this job. With huge occupational hazards, the skill levels are very low, and it's a kind of community-based occupation. Only people from a particular community, they continue to perform this duty, and the mostly it operates in the private sector, and the private contractors exploit them to the maximum, and there is no the social security programs available for them, and there is also lack of awareness amongst them, lack of awareness in the public about the safety issues. We took up this during COVID time 2020. The state has come up with a scheme called Garima to ensure safety, dignity, and welfare for the sanitation worker and their families. The scheme provides higher guaranteed wages, and for the first time in the country, this has been listed as one of the activities in the schedule of work under the labor law. And the scheme provides comprehensive social security benefits to safeguard their well-being. And that starts from housing assistance, transport assistance, up to 90% subsidy, housing subsidy, then the increase in the salary of more than 50%, categorizing them as highly skilled workers and skilled workers. Skill upgradation for the sanitation workers. They were called the sanitation worker or scavenger. Now we call them as sewer entry professionals. The scheme provides for the automation, mechanization of the entire operations, cleaning operations, and the provision of the safety gears for them, training certification, and state also has mandated that only the trained and certified sewer entry professionals can be engaged in the cleaning operations by the contractors, whether it is government work or at the private work, public work. And we are aware that this occupation is with high risks, and this is one activity, this is one job where the sanitation workers are required to take bath multiple times, head bath multiple times, because they get into the sewer system, inspection chamber, sewer network, and they deal with the raw sewage, fecal matter in the discharge of their activities. So they need to have place to wash them, to have a place to have food during their work hours. We have created something called Garima lounges in the cities for their exclusive use. The Garima lounges have the resting place, air conditioned place, wash facility, locker facility. So this scheme has inspired Government of India ministries Namaste scheme now, which is now implemented all over the country. So next, the challenge which we took up was the water supply issues in the cities. Odisha in the year 2015-16, till that time had only 40% of the urban areas covered with the pipe network. Less than 30% of the houses only had individual house tap connections. The cities experienced low pressure water supply, erratic, intermittent supply, disparity in the availability of water between the cities as well as within the city. Some areas will get very high water, some areas will not get anything. And contamination has been a major issue, resulting in waterborne diseases, typhoid, jaundice, cholera, from time to time leading to several deaths also. There used to be lots of incidences every year leading to several casualties. Then first we took up Basudha scheme, targeting to provide tap connection to every home in the urban local bodies. That was started in the year 2017. By 2019 end, we were at more than 80% of achieving our target, then we focused on the quality and other sectoral reform issues. We took up 24 by 7 drink from tap program in the year 2019, and in 2021, Puri has become the first city in the entire country to become 24 by 7 directly drinkable water at consumer taps. So now 9 cities are fully covered with that. And about the universal coverage of the tap water connections, 106 cities out of 115 cities have 100% house connections. 24 cities are now providing directly drinkable quality of water, DF 24 by 7 DFT, benefiting 26 lakh people. And wherever we have implemented the 24 by 7 water supply program, the water losses we could bring down from more than 50% to less than 15%. And now in the entire state, 90% of the households are covered with individual tap water connection at home. And all these things have been done through engaging the communities. The women self-help groups have been deeply engaged. We selected one Jalsati from the group, and then they have been engaged to deal with the community to act as a bridge between the water supply authorities and the consumers. 900 Jalsatis are in place performing various activities from facilitating meter connection to meter reading to bill collection to quality control, all the grievance redressal, variety of activities they perform, and then they are paid incentives for every activity. And these are some of the recognitions the state has received uh, uh, for implementing all these initiatives. Twice UN Habitat Award for the Jaga Mission, Water Leader, Global Water Leader Award for the 24 by 7 water supply program, and the WRI Ross Prize for cities for the year 2021-22 for the urban wage employment initiative, which we implemented during the COVID time. And I have listed some of the strategies and approaches the state has adopted in implementing all these programs. All these programs are people-centric. The focus has been on the final outcome and not on the processes. Say, for example, water supply. Our focus has been the measurable indicator has been how many houses have got tap connections, functional tap connection with water flowing. That has been this performance indicator, not how many water tanks or overhead tanks have been built or how many water treatment plants have been constructed or how many kilometers of transmission pipelines have been laid. The performance indicator has been the final when it reaches the people. That has been the point. Till that is done, the program is not considered as successful. Second thing is whatever we have done, all these initiatives have been made to scale. So generally we say that the pilots don't fail and the pilots don't scale. But in Odisha, we are fully aware of it, and we realize that we should not start with the pilot and end with the pilot. We decided that the pilot will be only for the purpose of developing a statewide framework. It was a kind of experiment that has been done with a view that it should be scalable to the entire state. So all these programs are all universal coverage. There is nothing like model city or model area. So all the solutions adoptable have been implemented across the state. That's the reason that Odisha has become a model for all other states and other cities in the developing countries also. And the approach has been inclusive and equitable. On saturation mode, leaving no one behind. All our programs are on saturation basis. We realize that unless we target that, the last mile will always be left out. The last man will always be left out. The slums will be left out. That's the reason we said that it's a universal coverage means 100%. That's the reason we say that 106 cities in Odisha have 100% house connections, which no other city in India can, claim. That we ensure the onus is on the administration to ensure that all houses get the tap water connection at their home. And then the approach has been to empower the slum dwellers. The objective is not to grant land rights or provide land rights. The objective has not been to provide water connection or access to toilet or improve the infrastructure. The mission is to empower the slum dwellers. These are all means to empower. These are all processes. Land rights is one of the processes to empower them, one of the activity to empower them. And our approach has been participatory governance. It does not, participation does not, end with the consultative process with a few meetings. Participation means that they are part and parcel of the planning, designing, implementation, and ownership. That's the reason in the Jaga mission, at the end, we signed the MOU with the Slum Dwellers Association, recognizing them as the partner in the governance and development process, and recognizing them as the fourth tier of government. And the municipal acts have been accordingly amended to ensure that. We went in for nature-based solution. We didn't, especially in the sanitation, is a nature-based solution. The composting of the wet waste, segregation of dry waste, and then recycling it. In terms for the liquid waste, it has been the nature-based treatment. We have desisted from using electromechanical devices because those things are, one, costly, expensive. Second thing, they are not sustainable, and they may not be scalable also. And we don't have that kind of systems and capacities in the smaller towns to manage it. That's the reason we ensure that we go for nature-based, whether it is black water treatment, solid waste, or gray water treatment. We went in for nature-based solution, which now has become sustainable, and now it is being implemented in the rural area and in other states and cities also. And in all the programs, community partnership has been part and parcel of the program. It's a DNA of our model. The decentralization and the community partnership have been the DNA of the Odisha model. In all the programs, you will find that women self-help group, transgender group, slum dweller association, all are part of the schemes. And the approach has been when we take up a challenge, our target is to provide short-term gains. Say, for example, when we implemented the water supply program, some of the water supply projects may take several years. If the source is far away from the city, say 100 kilometers or 50 kilometers, then we need to find out a place, intake point. We have to create impounding structure for storing water. We have to create intake structures, and then we have to draw the line. We have to construct a water treatment plant. That takes time. Then laying the distribution network, overhead tank, all these things are time-consuming process. It may take several years. That's the reason that before 2014-15, you will find in Odisha several projects were under implementation, never completed. Large number of projects started midway stop because they didn't have enough fund, or the projects have been running for several years, and there were cost to overrun, time overrun, cost to overrun. So what we did is that we thought that if people don't have water, they should get water immediately at the earliest. If the project takes 2 years or 3 years, let it take. But what do we do now to provide water? So go for a production well. Our approach has been a short-term approach. Go for a production well there, wherever we can get water, and put up a distribution network, provide water immediately within 2-3 months. Then parallelly, simultaneously, you take up the long-term project, you find out an intake point, create that structure, tender, all those things. But immediately water would be available. When the long-term project is completed, then that is connected to this, and the production well is tapped. So that is how we implemented the water supply. Similarly, in all the programs, we went in for immediate gain, short-term gain for the people to give immediate relief from the issues, from the challenges, from the suffering. And at the same time, we focused on the midterm as well as long-term. Midterm, the implement institutional reforms also have been taken up. Say for water supply, after the universal coverage, we took up the metering. Earlier, before 2019, there was absence of metering, and there was no concept of revenue collection. Focus has not been revenue collection. Focus has not been on sustainability because the water supply itself was not sustainable. So as part of this, we took up the institutional reform also. We went in for 100% metering of all the connections, 100% connections, followed by 100% metering of collection, followed by focus on the revenue collection through the Jalsatis. So now, wherever we have implemented in our state, we started from zero metering in 2019. Now we have crossed more than 80% of the metering in the last 3-4 years. And from very low revenue collection, say 20%, 30%, now we have much beyond 70-80%. In 24/7 drink from tap cities, the revenue collection has gone up to 90% also. And along with that, we also focused on the capacity building of the machinery, officials, partners, community members, all. And the long-term strategy has been integrate all these practices into policies, statutes, and institutionalize these challenges, these changes to give sustainability. So whatever has been done in the Jaga mission, the act has been amended to provide for 25% reservation of the resources and recognition of the slum dweller association, recognizing them as the partner in the governance. All these things have been incorporated into the act and rules to give sustainability. As I said, the journey has been as the transformative journey has to be continuous, progressive, and it, as the aspiration grows, it has to grow. There can't be any end card for the growth process. We started the Jaga mission with the land rights, upgraded the program to habitat upgrades, phase 2. Phase 3 has been the empowerment of the slum dwellers with community empowerment, devolution of power, upgrading them into fourth tier. So from land rights, we have gone up to the fourth tier. Similarly, in the water supply, we initially targeted to provide house connection. Then we moved on to 24/7 drink from tap, community partnership, 100% metering, focus on revenue collection, reducing the non-revenue water losses to bring in operational sustainability. Step by step has been a progress. Similarly, in sanitation also, we started with the liquid waste management to prevent river contamination and groundwater contamination. Then after addressing that, we went into solid waste management. Then the sanitation workers, safety, dignity, welfare, Garima. Then the grey water management. Now the state is focusing on the legacy waste management, the cleaning of the garbage dump yards and making them into green parks. And the capacity building also, capacity building initiative, we started with the Odisha Water Academy. Soon that was upgraded to Odisha Urban Academy to build in-house capacity, to act as an nodal institution to provide capacity building for the entire state in all these interventions. And we also took up advocacy. We created a project management consultancy division also to support other cities and states and countries who want to implement similar programs. As I said, the foundations have been the participatory governance, focus on the gradual progression, not all at a time, at the same time. It has been slow and steady. And digital intervention using technology to the maximum and keep on moving ahead, scale up, move to higher and higher orbits to keep up with the growing aspirations of the people. The execution strategy has been initial. Once we take up a challenge, once we want to address a problem, then we develop proof of concept. We had the best of our partners working with us. I'll come to that later. And with their support, with the research findings available, best practices available elsewhere, and a lot of insights have been brought from outside. At the same time, consulting the field, consulting experienced professionals, consultation with the people, with the community, we develop the proof of concept, and then we roll it out as a sub-pilot. We test the assumptions, get a primary shape of the intervention, and then we pilot it in few places, few cities, few areas to learn from the experience, to understand the difficulties, and to understand the challenges, and to make a model which can be implemented irrespective of the size of the city or irrespective of the context, factoring the varying ground realities. And then the scaling up is done at the state level across all the cities, statewide scale up, all programs on saturation mode, and all our programs will have a standard operating procedures, detailed guidelines, very detailed guidelines, model plan and estimates to help the implementing agencies, officials, partners, and detailed procurement guidelines if procurements are involved, the operating and maintenance manuals, standard formats, standard letters which are required to be made, including the model contract. All these things are made at the state level with the help of the state level consult, our partners, technical partners, to ease the implementation and to fast pace the implementation. That's how in few years we could scale up the entire all the schemes across the state. Implementation has always been dynamic and it's never static. Though we give the detailed SOP guidelines, all these things, we also closely monitor the implementation process, support them, handhold them, mentor them. And in that process, we also get to know the implementation difficulties, challenges, and unforeseen circumstances, challenges. So we immediately we intervene and then we modify the guidelines we according to the emerging needs, and then give it to all the cities for implementation. So implementation has been always been dynamic. That's the reason that our programs have become successful compared to other programs which remain static. And these are the programs have been constantly evolving based on the feedback on the bottlenecks unforeseen as well as keeping up the aspiration of the people. Along with implementation, we also focus the implementation is not possible without focusing on the capacity of the institutions, capacity of the people, capacity of the machinery which is implementing this. We focused on it, and then the approach has been that the cities where we implement the pilot programs, the officials, partners, community members become the mentors and the master trainers for the capacity building program exercise, and they are duly supported by our technical partners. We develop the modules, we develop the pedagogy, we develop the sessions, we develop audio visual materials for the capacity building, and then we roll out the training program in all the cities covering all the functionality, again on saturation mode. Nobody in our implementation chain will be left out without appropriate training for implementing this program. For that purpose, we have created the Odisha Urban Academy, and we also signed MOU with the leading sectoral experts like NIVA, CSE, ASCII, WASH to support us in all these capacity building programs. Many of our intervention initiatives have inspired other states and at the national level also. Many of our programs have become national policies. Drink 24 by 7 drink from tap is now part of Amrut 2.0. DFT program is being implemented in 500 cities now across the country. FSSM is now part of the Swachh Bharat mission implemented in all the states. And our Jalsatis, community partners, now Amrut, Amrut recognize them and call them as Amrut Mitra. And as I said, Garima has become now the Namaste, inspired Namaste, and being implemented in all the states. Now I would request Mr. Shubhagato to take over from here.
Thank you for such an extensive presentation, Mr. Mathivanan. I'll just take a few minutes to re-highlight some of the aspects that Mr. Mathivanan covered. The On partnerships, for example, there were, of course, lots of institutions, external institutions that helped, but also partnership was deepened within government departments and across urban and rural local government. This means that it was a very practical approach, which there was a lot of buy-in from various from all departments in government, and that is rare to see. And we'll come to understand why is this rare in the Indian context as we go about the discussion. We are very much looking forward to the question and answer session after this. Next slide, sir. Means, and as Mr. Mathivanan also mentioned, there were innovations in financing as well as in regulatory aspects, policy and regulations that had to happen simultaneously. But unlike working in a federated national government, working in the state level allows much more flexibility and on-time response in terms of both finance as well as regulations. This was maximized in the case of Odisha, and it was a very smooth process that that might have started off as an initial, means an experiment with it in FSSM initially, but then it's a model that was applied again and again across all sectors with immense success. So what this book does is kind of um, uh, b- goes into the story of each of these subsectors, but also then tries to wrap in what were the common principles that drove all of these efforts. Next slide, sir. I mean, as Mr. Mathivantan mentioned, the fourth tier was a word that was coined in Orissa, essentially, given that decentralization looks at three tiers. We wanted to work with the communities, but not only as Mr. Mathivantan says, involve them in parts of the process, but try and get them to own urban governance too. And various every program gave us an opportunity to deepen that interaction and partnership between local government and the community groups. This is normally used in rural areas, but in urban areas, this is the first to, means after maybe Kudumshri, this is the largest program that allowed something like that to happen. Next. Means and at the core, one of the other core principles is that at every stage of designing the program, we reevaluated, came with no preconceived notions about how much to decentralize, how much to centralize. But given the technical as well as contextual specificities of the sector, the arrangements were redesigned to make implementation possible, smoother, transparent, participative, etc. In Jaga Mission, the communities were brought in. In water, a new institution was structured along with participation of cities in them. So in each of these, there was lots of governance reform happening based on essentially decentralizing, but also redefining the way the roles were laid out to run in the past. Next. Finally, just a word in parting is that this built tremendous capacities at the community level with all these people involved in the urban service delivery sector, at the state level, across all related departments and the urban departments, various agencies at the national level, a lot of Orissa officers are now working closely with the national level. There were new programs designed on the back of the success of some of these local programs, and internationally, there's been a lot of awareness around Orissa. Lots of visits from communities and states and cities from elsewhere in Africa and East Asia, essentially to and South Asia, of course, to visit sites in Orissa and understand the processes that have developed, have been put on the ground there. So essentially, there's a huge set of sectoral capacities and leadership built into the sector by this 10 year of effort. Next slide, sir. Uh, of course, to thank everyone involved means this book essentially captures how these processes and interactions worked. It wouldn't have been possible without all the partnerships that the government built. Again, not the most common, but every partner who wanted to work in the urban space was welcomed in the state and with particular interest areas. Next. And I mean, there's a distribution. There was often donor coordination and institutional coordination remains to be quite a task. In the case of Orissa, this was built into teams, and there was a lot of thought and effort that went into organizing teams around external support for building all of these programs sequentially. And finally, sir.
This
Uh,
is the, yeah, this is the final
Yeah.
slide.
Yeah.
And if
So
here you can see in Sujo, you will find multiple partners being part of the program. You have the state, urban local bodies, you have eGov to support the provide the technical support. You have the EY, you have the CPR, and in slums you will have Janagraha, you will have CPR, you will have Tata Steel Foundation, you have Tata Trust, you have BMGF supporting it. So normally you will not find multiple partners supporting the state in a particular initiative. Here, most of our initiatives will always have multiple partners, but it's not a kind of crowding, but it is we bring in strengths from each partner to meet a specific requirement. In FSSM, here we have the WASH Institute, CPR and EY, BMGF, and in water we have GIZ, we have UNICEF. UNICEF has not been listed. You have UNICEF, you have UMC for the capacity building, and we have the community Jalsatis and self-help groups, and the ULBs and state working with all. So every program has multiple partners. That reiterates the point that the challenges are huge, and government alone will not be able to deliver. You need to have competent partners, including apart from the communities, apart from the urban local bodies, technical support partners to support designing, implementing, and rolling out this program. So we thank CPR and the participants for the opportunities given to us, and we look forward to hear from you. Thank you so much.
For giving us a quite comprehensive glimpse of your book. And what we get is like, with administrative will, we can actually address urban challenges in this time and age. And what we see it is like the model you're presenting is like pretty much interconnected. And it is not only looking at the administrative aspect, but also socially, it is trying to include the marginalized communities like transgenders or sanitation workers. So once again, thank you very much. Maybe I will open the floor for the questions. Do we have questions? Yeah. Do we have questions in the room? Okay. Uh, Online, are there any questions for our speakers? Champaka.
There are several questions.
Yes, great.
There are already 8 questions, and there are more to come, I believe. So there's Mr. Karthik Pandey, who is complimenting the authors, says, I was in Odisha during 2015 to 2017. Whatever sir's mentioning, I had the privilege to see some of the transformations happening. I would like to thank the team for transforming the state. My question is, Odisha had the privilege of being a large state with scope of going for such projects, but the current metropolitan cities are highly dense. So how does this book take into account the problem of high population density when providing a way forward for other cities and states, while showcasing a development strategy of a state with comparatively less population density? That's one part of the question. Then following up, another constraint of local political will compared to the BJP government at that time, BJD government at that time, how that has been taken into account in the book. Over to you all for the response, and we could go ahead then with more questions, please.
The book actually documents our experience in implementing these interventions in Odisha, which has basically tier 2 and tier 3 cities, not the tier 1 cities. But the model is, what I find is the model is universal, because it adopts a decentralized approach. So any city, irrespective, if this can be implemented in a very small urban local body, say with 25,000 population, as well as state capital with about 20 lakh population, the same model. I'm sure the same model can be, implemented in 1 crore city also, because it adopts a decentralized approach. So instead of n number of MCC, MR, If Bhubaneswar has 50 MCC MRF, maybe the Bangalore may require about 250. So only the scale is more. Otherwise, the approach can be similar, but nevertheless, they may look at the model and then pick up few ingredients which they may adopt. So we don't provide a solution for all. So we have a solution for the tier 2, tier 3, which we have successfully implemented, demonstrated. So others may try this model. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, they may have to improve that. They may have to contextualize. So in many of our, even in solid waste management, we took some ingredients from Tamil Nadu. The decentralized approach has been picked up from Tamil Nadu. So, but we have contextualized it. We have stitched our own model using those ingredients. So what works, you have to have your own model.
I'll also add to that, Mr. Pandey, is that, in India, 40% of our population does live in smaller and secondary cities. What Orissa kind of demonstrated that the lack of attention to that, to a time where problems are unsurmountable, is not a good idea. Instead, it is doubly effective that if you work in smaller cities and improve services significantly, there's demand from your larger cities also for the improved services. So it in a sense builds political will bottom up by demonstrating that services can be much better in today's context. So means the issue of each city, especially each very large city in India, the mega cities, let's say, has to be tackled in their own way, but in a context where only large projects are being implemented by large cities is not necessarily the only solution. Here in this context, there were programs being delivered to systems of cities, all small cities, yeah, that build a different kind of appetite for these programs, all distribution oriented, participation, going the last mile. All of this was very effective in Orissa, unlike what is traditionally our large Indian programs, which, as Mr. Bhathiwatan also mentioned, you even in JNURM, PMAY, etc., you count the number of projects done. But that's not what we learned from Orissa, that we can run programs by looking at outcomes and trying to measure outcomes itself, and not by just counting large projects implemented, so many crores spent, etc., which is the more traditional monitoring system. And there's a double benefit to that.
Thank you very much for your responses. I have a question to build up on your responses. When scaled up to a metropolitan city, the decentralized model that you've recommended, implemented, and advanced for further scaling up would encounter concerns related to varying capacities of wards, for example, at the local levels, right? So how does the model take into account varying state capacities at the local levels, at the hyper-local levels?
In fact, the metropolitan cities have better capacities than the medium town and small towns. Small towns have almost, you can say, nil capacity. Medium towns have some capacity, but metropolitans have better capacities because of their financial positions. They may be mismanaged. Problems may be huge, but capacity-wise, resources-wise, they should not have any problem. Because the scope potential is there. You can always, tap those potentials to generate your own resources and train your own officials. And getting officials for the larger metros won't be a problem. Even in Odisha, we witnessed a problem in getting consultants, professionals for medium and small towns. They were not willing to go there due to absence of amenities, facilities. Well, except Bhubaneswar and Cuttack will not have professionals to move up, but metropolitans will get. You can always hire from market if you don't have in-house. So
also, Jampuka, means it's not to say that all the 115 small cities had have similar outcomes or the same identical outcome. There's enough variability within that from at the ward level as well as the city level. There's just been a mass movement all in one direction forward, but however, there is enough variability within that. And cities will, even if large cities have variability, and as Mr. Mathivanan said, capacity should not be a constraint. As the politics behind asking for increasingly better services can only be pushed forward when there is demonstration that good services are possible. So when one city gets compared with the other, the local politics also kicks in and says that, if so many services are being delivered at this better quality in this city, why is my small city not being able to deliver that? So there is a momentum build around a system of cities, which is quite variable too. They're all at different points. I
Sure.
I'm
hope
not
that,
Sure.
I'm
yeah.
not saying capacity is not a constraint in metropolitans. Capacities are a constraint for all, but it can be addressed. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
If I could take the liberties as one of the moderators to further this question, since in the urban context, we do not have, in the planning context particularly, we do not have a mechanism to help municipal authorities to prioritize investments in order to accomplish certain outcomes. So it's not an outcomes-based decision-making process in our plans, for example, or even urban governance mechanisms. So then this is prioritization of allocation of funds becomes dependent on bargaining capacities of ward officers, for example, and that could tend to bring about uneven development even within the city. So that's where my question sort of stems from, on what, in the absence of a mechanism for prioritization of allocation of investments, public investments, as well as other kinds of models, whether it's through self-help groups or public-private partnerships, etc. How does one ensure that there's equitable distribution of resources?
Hmm.
That's how you should go for universal coverage. Unless that is one. See, if you take Amrut program, Amrut has that inbuilt principle. I think in urban, I find only Amrut has that prioritizing. There is a national hierarchy of priorities, and water supply is at the top of the national hierarchy, followed by the sewage drainage facilities, then transport, then other priorities. And Amrut guidelines say that unless you achieve water supply priority, you cannot allocate your resources to any other priority. So this we followed in Odisha also. We said that unless you saturate tap water supply connection to every home, you cannot utilize these funds for any other purpose. So what happens in Badrak, in my Trick from Tap book, I have mentioned that in Badrak, the municipal council has passed a resolution saying that they don't want to allocate the resources for water supply, they want to allocate it for drainage work, which we did not allow, and then we said that no. So you have to overrule sometimes, because those who are in the council, elected council, they all have water supply connection at their home. So they have not bothered about the slums not getting water supply. Rather, they were much worried about their areas getting flooded during the monsoon. So we said that unless there is a national hierarchy of priorities, unless that is achieved, the funds cannot be provided for this purpose. And we stood to our point.
Interestingly, Champaka, in this case, essentially it kind of shows an alternative story to what the literature normally argues, right? Is that by having this oversight at the state level, the priorities were being set, the sequencing was being set at a state level where the control over these smaller cities was much higher. Yeah. In the larger cities where there were a few more tiers of administration and politics, they were more driven by the market, so to say, or by the state's success in smaller cities. So the constraints were being built on from both sides, from raising demand as well as showing efficient decision making, prioritization, financing, all of that of efficiency on one side and raising demand on the other. And that's how many of the larger cities couldn't be left out of the loop later.
Sure. Thank you very much. There's a mutual motivation mechanism which sort of
Yeah.
got established through the process, it appears. That's wonderful. There's other compliments. Mr. Ismail Haq says performance of Odisha government in improving the access and quality of urban essential services is impressive. Thank you, Mr. Haq. There's an anonymous attendee who shares that he says there are many, they say there are many actors who are involved in implementing a policy. What were the capacities that needed to be strengthened for governance and implementation? Was there any instance where the context of one city was different from the other and the former needed more capacity strengthening than the other? Sort of builds on what you already responded, but
Yes.
for more details, please.
You want me to answer this? Hello. You want me, madam? You want me?
Yes, sir. So just some examples of why pilot cities were chosen, you know.
Capacity building has been a conscious effort
Hmm.
in the implementation process. And at the time of scale up, we understand the capacity constraints in the cities, and then how do we meet the gap. Then simultaneously, we take up the capacity building of all the players, actors in the implementation, appropriate one, and follow up support also. We also provide implementing support from the state. We also provide professionals, position them in the urban local bodies during the implementation process. So it's a collaborative effort. We don't prescribe and give this program to the urban local body for implementing. We give them to implement, and also we support them to implement. We handhold them, we mentor them, and we understand their difficulties and support them. It's a joint responsibility. If an urban local body is not able to deliver, it's the failure of the state government also, department also. Realizing that, we chipped in and met the gap. So it's a collaborative journey. So the support level would vary depending upon the gaps in the urban local bodies, differential gaps.
Right.
Bhubaneswar may not require so much support, whereas Denkanal may require more support. We provide. So likewise.
Sir, also where the pilots and sub-pilots were designed and picked up were also with keeping all this in mind as to where there is more enthusiasm, demand, and need for a particular solution, where the context makes that solution more difficult or more of a priority. Uh, and then working with those pilots gave us all this understanding that Mr. Mathivandan mentioned about capacities required, why aren't the local staff managing to do something, what kind of rules need to change, whether the financing, your allocation of the SFCs, the 200 crore for metering, there are many examples of that.
That when we design the pilot, we choose the pilot in such a way that it gives varied experience. For example, the 24 by 7 drink from tap pilots have been done in 12 zones in Bhubaneswar and Puri. These 12 zones are varied zones. One zone is located in the institutional area, secretariat, assembly, that kind of area. Another pilot would be in the purely commercial area. Another would be in the residential area. One pilot would be in the slum area. So one would be in a mixed area, half commercial, half residential. So the pilots would have been implemented in these kind of differentials to maximize our learnings, to maximize our experience, and to minimize surprises during the scale up. So once we experience these difficulties during the pilot, it becomes easy for us to develop the model, appropriately, to foresee these, to factor all these things, and then design a proper model. So all these things are factored. And the financing also is at the time of scaling up, we consider all the factors of financing. How much is available with the urban local bodies under the Finance Commission grant? How much we can provide through the State Financing Commission? How much the urban local bodies' own resource can be tapped? How much the budget support should be provided? All those things based on the requirement. Since it is equitable, we adopted an equitable approach. The urban local bodies which require more money has been provided with more. Again, it depends upon the spending capacity. The urban local bodies which spends fast get, immediate. So
To further the question, what were the, what was the context of of the corporation across cities during this period? How about the capacities? Could you please elaborate about a little more about the capacities of elected representatives during this period?
yeah, capacities of when we speak of capacity constraints, we include the elected representatives also. They are part and parcel of the team. The mayor is the head of the team of the urban local body, the corporator in that particular area. So the capacity, we focus on the capacities of all the elected representatives, the officials, the contractors also, the communities also. In fact, under the 24/7 program, we built capacity of the individual contractors because they didn't have experience. Because 24/7 has not been implemented in India. You can't expect experienced people. So it's your model. You have to train them. That's the reason we built the Odisha Urban Academy to build our own capacity. So you have to invest on the elected representatives and build their capacity. So you have to onboard them as part of the team. You have to orient them on the objectives, why it's being done, how it's being done, what is the legal provision, all those things.
No, and also means what is in line with literature I mean, Orissa is a great demonstration of that, of how community leaders have gone on to become city leaders across the board. So all that means, and they brought in some sort of competition into the politics of local bodies. So it's quite an amazing story just to measure the impact of so many programs which are participation led, which involve training of community and creating community leaders, what the larger impact of it is in urban development, so to say. Right? So, I mean, there were at least 30 who went on to become councillors and mayors.
Sure, thank you. That provides a lot of insights further deeper into the political sphere. There are more questions from Mr. Ismail Haq, who is Assistant Professor Urban Studies at Jamia Millia Islamia Central University, New Delhi. He inquires about how the urban local bodies manage the finances to effectively implement these initiatives across Odisha. Is there any private sector engagement in urban financing?
In the finance, we have not engaged with the private sector. From 14th Finance Commission grant, from 14th Finance Commission, also from that time, the finances of the urban local bodies have become better actually. The transfers have, the quantum of transfers have gone up, 14th and 15th Finance Commission. And again, there are conditions for accessing the basic grant and the incentive grant available under the Finance Commission grant from the Government of India. So we equipped the urban local bodies. We supported them in complying with all those requirements so that they'll be able to access full entitlement from the Finance Commission grants. So except barring one or two, almost all urban local bodies have accessed almost full grant in the past few years. That's very substantial. And the grants, the basic grants are earmarked for water sanitation. Dedicated funds are available for it, which we could leverage for this program. Plus, whatever is the gap, the state budget has supported it. And wherever possible, we could also get CSR funds locally. Say, for example, in Jharsuguda, we have the NTPC. So we also could get about 60 crores from the NTPC because we were sharing the water with the NTPC also. So onboard them so that everybody need not create their own individual infrastructures. It could be a common infra available for everybody to share. So not that everyone has to lay a pipeline for 50 kilometers and draw their own water. So one common pipeline can bring the water, and then from here you can distribute to the consumers. So onboard all those agencies who need water at that location. So through convergence.
Okay.
There's a question from Shreya Anand. Hi, Shreya. Nice to see you here on this panel discussion, on this workshop, rather. She says, thank you so much for the talk. The model of Odisha is truly inspiring. Could I request you to also comment on the usual reasons states are unable to do this? One, how political support was mobilized and sustained. Two, how finances were raised and deployed. And three, how municipal capacity was expanded. Many thanks, she says.
Number one, how political support was mobilized and sustained. See,
Yes.
the challenges which we have taken up, these are all to address the basic issues. Basic, these are all people's issues which any political party or any political leader will support. The issue of slums. Tell me which political party will not support. Providing water tap connection to every home. The political parties will jump. That's what Honorable Prime Minister is, dreaming of, and then the Har Ghar Jal. The Jal Jeevan Mission is that every political party wants to give, irrespective of the party. Every political leader would be happy to provide the basic services to the people. They want the machinery to deliver. And if you can create a scheme or initiative which can address this problem at a shorter time with reasonable cost, not so expensive, affordable for the state, and can be implemented at a reasonable time frame and can be delivered, then I'm sure these kind of initiatives will get required political support. And if you have a passionate, dedicated team to deliver it, yes, they would be happy to support. It's our experience, irrespective of the party.
The second question is how finances were raised and deployed.
As I said, that convergence of funds from Central Finance Commission, State Finance Commission, CSR funds, state budget, MLA lad, MP lad, in whatever way that you have to be innovative and it is context specific.
That in itself is a huge challenge because it involves a variety of contracts and partnership arrangements to be established. So we can imagine how complex that whole process must have been.
And you have to be ready for it. You have to, you have to find, if you are committed to the cause, you will find out a solution.
Maybe I'll just add to that on let's say the financing. Uh, just as an example, the slum upgrading program, which covered 1,600 slums in Orissa, uh, for that program particularly, there was only a very small sum of money required because there were these universal schemes for water taps, for drains, from local bodies. Everything is actually pre-funded in the programs because that's how governments design programs based on population, what kind of budget spending they've done in the past, etc. The core amount of money was only required to mobilize and ensure that there is better targeting and slums get covered. I mean, there is money in the system in India today. It is just about managing to structure it in a transparent manner. And Orissa is a brilliant example of that. On the capacity building, also, it'll be great to hear Mr. Mathivanan, on that. Is that means initially there were a lot of external partners brought in to build capacities 360 degrees with various stakeholders, and lots of these experiences were then codified and made into OUA, Orissa Urban Academy programs, which are now kind of being used not only in other states I mean, there are other states visiting, but other countries visiting too. But a lot of it is on how it is implemented on the ground, the quality of that, of how the final transfer happens on the ground, and for which SUDA played an initial very strong role in the state government. And means it's not something that cannot be replicated in other states. It is surely a model that that can be replicated. It's only the choice of how the other states kind of see these programs. So, Garima, as Sir mentioned, is a national program now, is being implemented quite actively in Tamil Nadu among a few other states. When you go in for these kind of distribution programs, which have to connect to the last mile, the kind of approach you adopt, Orissa gives some very significant lessons on that. Thanks.
On the financing front, what I would like to share here is that it's not very expensive to take up these initiatives. And many a times, actually, we don't know how much it would cost. I find one of the question, one participant has asked a question, have you implemented the private sector's fund operate transfer model? So we didn't go for it, because water, if you bring in a private sector, if you bring in private finance, then the objective would be not only to provide water, at the same time to maximize the profit. In my opinion, water sector can't be the one for making profit. Maximizing profit cannot operate in the water supply sector. When tariff and unaffordable, all these things will come. That's the reason that we are not able to achieve 24/7 in any of the cities other than Odisha. So there is no profit motive here. And as I said, our approach has been using nature-based solutions. So our models are all very low-cost models, inexpensive models. And our maximum operating cost goes to meeting the wages and salaries of the self-help groups, not profit to the contractor. Many of these programs are contractor-free programs, community-driven, community-engaged program, community-implemented programs. There's no profit component in this. So that takes away. And for example, solid waste management. The moment you move away from contractor-based waste management to community-based, community managed, the ghost garbage will go down. 30% of the ghost garbage will fade away, will disappear. Because the contractor model is tipping fee per ton. That's the bidding parameter for engaging a private contractor in solid waste management. If you provide per ton, the incentive for the private contractor is to maximize the garbage. He will maximize the garbage to maximize his revenue, profit. If there is no contractor, there is no incentive for maximizing the garbage. So 30% automatically will come down. Over 80% of the expenses in solid waste management is towards the wage component of the women self-help group and transgender groups, which become the livelihood support for them. It's not an expenditure for us. It is an investment into the marginalized people. It goes into their hands and it keeps circulating, and it enriches the grassroots level economy in the medium and small towns. It's a huge intervention. So many of our programs are contractor-free programs, so cost will automatically come. As Mr. Shubhagato has mentioned, that the slum upgradation program did not cost us much. We have that, preconceived notion that they are all very expensive, because we had never tried it. When we started implementing this through the Slum Dollar Association, the cost has come down. If you engage a contractor, it will be hiked up, because he has to build in the margin of everybody. So that's why the cost is high. And then the quality compromises, all those things happen. If the implementing agency is Slum Dollar Association, they directly do it through the skilled manpower, then the cost would be minimal. So all our interventions have been, not very expensive, affordable. And we have never experienced financing problem in any of our urban local bodies for any of our program.
Indeed, yes, because the contractor's incentive is a perverse incentive. It actually ends up producing more garbage than otherwise. And the
Yes.
model you've adopted is actually sustainable, and it brings about livelihoods and a whole range of other sustained forms of one is not, it's not expenditure, but it's investment, social investment, as you rightly pointed out. Thank you, sir. Could we request Mr. Anant Kumar Giri to please engage in the discussion? We've provided you access to speak, sir.
Thank you. Am I audible? Thank you. Am I audible, please?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes. So, good afternoon to you all. Thank you, our respected speakers. My first query is, you mentioned about the very abject condition of sanitary workers, and the government initiated schemes like Garima and others. But in this, the voice of the sanitary workers are missing. And you yourself wrote that told how many go into, but they never come back. Now, what happens to these families? Is it just a, question of number, or what is the pathos of human suffering? And I'm wondering if you are attentive to that dimension. And it is an official account of the state and bureaucracy. But though there is a state gestures towards public participation, but the multidimensional perceptions and perspectives also need to be brought into consideration. The second issue is, our second speaker very insightfully mentioned about visiting of groups from other countries, South Africa and possibly South Korea and others, to Odisha. And my query is, what is the dynamics of co-learning that happens in these encounters? Is it that they have only come to learn from Odisha experience, or the Odisha experiments also could profitably learn from initiatives in other countries? Because there are many important initiatives in other countries, like Brazil, for example. It conducted a participatory budgeting, almost 25 years ago. It was a very revolutionary initiative. So how do we open up these state-initiated initiatives, which which gives the slogan of empowerment, to still aspire for multiple dynamics of people's participations, including social movements, please? Thank you for your kind consideration.
Yeah, the voice of sanitation workers in this is that, so we took up extensive consultation with these sanitation workers. The problem with in the consultative process with the manual scavengers have been that they were not it's very difficult to comprehend the extent of their sufferings. We can see it, we can feel it, but we have not experienced it. So we brought in people from various cities to understand the challenges and then to design to the interventions and all. We have also consulted Mr. Bezwada Wilson. So he has advised us on designing the Garima scheme. His inputs have been taken, and he has been brought to Bhubaneswar, and he brought his people. He represent the Sanitation Manual Scavengers Association. He brought in people, and then extensive workshop has been done under his guidance. And then once the scheme was made, it was presented to Mr. Bezwada Wilson in tidbits. And in fact, he has okayed it. We are happy. We are happy and proud about the involvement of Bezwada Wilson, who has been fighting for the cause of manual scavengers for decades, and whose contribution has been recognized with Raman Magsaysay Award, has been our advisor. So we have taken due care to ensure that the stakeholder inputs are appropriately factored in the design. As far as the cross-learning, yes, we visited South Africa. Mr. Shubhagata has been part of that to understand the affordable housing interventions of South Africa, social housing models and all. We learned a bit. And then the FSM has been brought from Malaysia. The FSM model. We studied Malaysia model and then tailor-made to suit Odisha's context, and then we implemented, which has been a success. And we visited, Tamil Nadu to understand the solid waste management through the self-help group. And then we picked up few ingredients and then made our own model. And we sent our team to Singapore to study the Singapore water supply system before implementing 24/7 system here. So we learned from other best practices. And many countries have visited our state also to understand our best practices. It has been mutual learning. Thank you.
Mr. Anant Kumar Giri, would you have other questions as well?
No, thank you so much, Champaka and friends. So I'm grateful to for this opportunity, you and friends for this opportunity uh,
You're
for
most
sharing. Thank
Thank
you.
you for joining us. There is a question from an anonymous attendee. To what extent was research from peer-reviewed articles used to design and implement these interventions?
So the politically correct answer is not enough. But frankly, by getting in the expertise from outside, the government kind of ensures that a lot of the research or the current thinking, the international experiences, a lot of that is covered. Yeah. Odisha itself participated in a number of sessions internationally. Means from the department, of course, headed by Mr. Mathivatnan, but even from, his chief engineer level or the DMA level, etc. Number of them participated in various topic discussions in international forum. On research itself, so on what Odisha has produced so far in terms of peer-reviewed literature is again not enough. I'm sure there's going to be lots more studies and research on Odisha, but there was a lot of policy level research that did happen during the program design aspects. Many of them are in grey literature and reports, but a few have been published too. So I would, say that it's not enough, and there'll be lots more coming out research from Orissa. But there is enough, at least material that kind of lays the groundwork for more research to happen. So we look forward to more researchers engaging in Orissa for sure.
Pushpaji, you had a question as well. Over to you, please.
Yes, thank you, Champaka. I think a lot of the and no. First, Shubhagato and Mr. Ratnam, congratulations for the book. And really, it is very impressive work that has been documented. We at CPR have been kind of observers of that work, and we have followed the progress. So we are aware of it, but still, it comes as a nice package in a book, and it's very impressive. So far, the discussion has focused around capacity and finance, and I want to take the focus a little bit away to the land question, because in slum upgrading programs, land is a major hurdle. So I wondered, this 1,600 slums that you upgraded in the program, what kind of land they were located in, what was the process of, if it was not government land, acquiring that land, because I believe the program gave in situ land rights, and land rights you have mentioned before, and I presume it was permanent land deeds. So what kind of land deeds, and what was the process of getting access to land if it was not public land? If you could elaborate that land question, that would be very helpful.
Most of the slum upgradation has been done in all the 2,919 slums, not 1,650. 1,650 slums have been completely upgraded and they have become Adarsh colonies, fully upgraded. Otherwise, the program is implemented on saturation mode in all urban local bodies, in all slums, without leaving out anyone. Even the slums on the railway tracks, even the slums on the forest land, even the slums on the temple land, which is a private land, the upgradation has been done. Land rights we could not give in in certain slums because the lands were recorded in the name of either forest department as forest or railway authorities because it's on the joining the railway tracks, or the defense lands. These lands are untenable lands which we could not give. Uh, Nevertheless, we moved Government of India Forest and Environment Department proposal to de-reserve those lands by giving alternative double the quantum of land with afforestation, all those things. That proposal has been sent. Efforts have been made to make that also happen. Even for the temple lands, which is considered as a private land, the endowment commissioner, we filed cases before the endowment commissioner for settling the land in favor of us by offering either cost or alternative government land. So those initiatives have been taken. Purely private land, I don't think we have slums in Odisha which are located on purely private, individual private lands. Most of them are government lands. Only thing, those government lands were actually reserved for, say, burial ground or for future road expansion or for some public causes which have been de-reserved following due process, and then land has been settled.
Right. I'll just come on that. Pushpa, thanks so much for the question. It is undoubtedly one of the more difficult aspects to deal with and long drawn out aspects. What Sir mentioned was very interesting about Odisha is that when the slums become Adarsh colonies, they get delisted as a slum and they become part of the city. So 1,600 of these erstwhile slum neighborhoods are now kind of delisted from the list of slums in those in the ULBs. So that's one thing to keep in mind. These slums have both land rights as well as slum upgraded, the whole package. The delisting exercise, it was very interesting that when the slum land titling exercise started, after 40-45% of the lands were given off through a regular patta, for the rest, a land entitlement certificate was given, yeah, which wasn't on the same site, but if relocation was to happen, they would be provided an alternative site. That is what Mr. Mathivantan mentioned, forest, private, Raja. There's a whole sequence of those lands which are in a different sort of color. They're not something that can be handed off straight off. They all have processes backing them that need to be resolved before they can be officially given off. So those processes are ongoing. But meanwhile, soon after that, the slum upgrading process started, where there was a de-link with the land tenure. So even if you were on any kind of land, you didn't have to be on public land where you had a patta to have slum upgrading. Slum upgrading was de-linked with land, just like the universal toilet exercise, that it doesn't matter if you are encroaching on land, you still get money from Swachh Bharat. Similarly, your slum still gets upgraded. So these are parallel processes which build more momentum for the land conversion program at some future date. Yeah. Just to kind of explain the context in which all of this evolved.
Thank you. Thank you. Indeed, so many innovations and lessons to learn. There's a question related to land here again by Mr. Dhiren Swine. He says, thanks for the presentation and lucidly explaining the stellar work done by the Odisha government. I wanted to know about Jaga Mission's effort in bringing land department and urban development department together, given urban development was leading. How did the leadership navigate such authority-wise issues?
Yes, in Odisha, the land in the urban areas are owned by the revenue department. So getting land from revenue department, yes, has been a challenge. So what we have done, realizing the difficulties in getting land from the Tahsildar and RA, they are all big institutions. The lower you travel in the hierarchy, bigger the institution and authority levels. So sometimes it is easy to convince the Tahsildar, not so easy to convince the RA, and very difficult to convince the Amin. So understanding that in the design stage itself, we actually we didn't leverage the Revenue Act for giving the land. We created a dedicated act for it. Though Law Department initially struck down our proposal, they said that there is a provision in the revenue law, which is very old, 1936 or something like that, or 1864. I don't remember that. It's very old. They said there is a provision in the revenue law for providing land to the landless in the urban area. So there is no need for a new law. The Law Department has gracefully returned our proposal. So we said that if there is a law which is in existence for decades and which has not delivered anything, we said it's an important which cannot deliver. And that act cannot be relied for delivering this. We need to have a new act which can deliver. So we insisted on having a separate act, new act, for this purpose, not relying upon the already existing one. So we got it, and then in the act we made the provision that this would be implemented not by Tahsildar, not by the revenue department, by the urban development department. The onus is on us. So legally we are responsible for giving. Only thing what we have done is that we have brought the institution of district collector, who is head of the revenue administration, as the head of the committee. There is a committee at the urban local body level. In fact, well, in the process, we have completely decentralized the land rights implementation process. The proposal emanates at the slum level. The proposal for giving land rights would be signed by the Slum Dweller Association. The application form would be filled by the association, signed by all the slum dwellers, with all the annexures, details, application forms, everything. It would be given to the committee headed by the district collector at the city level. The proposal need not go beyond the city. It begins at the city, ends at the city, to avoid delay. And then the committee is headed by collector. It also has a superintendent of police, Tahsildar, welfare officer. All those functionaries are part of the committee. The executive officer is the member secretary of the committee to process, and then there is a scrutiny committee to scrutinize the proposal, which includes Tahsildar or sub-collector, headed by sub-collector. So we have involved the revenue machinery at the Tahsil level, at the sub-collector level, at the collector level, but the powers have not been given to them. Knowing that if powers is given, then they will not give the land. So, and no individual officer would be willing to grant land right to a person fearing future problems. Tomorrow vigilance or somebody can chase them and then they will be put into trouble. So the responsibility has been given collectively. It's a district collector headed committee with all these people, and there is a process protocol to follow. And we used scientific means. We actually drone imaged the whole thing, the slum. The digital mapping has been done. GIS is used. Every inch of land has been measured. The exact occupation of the land has been measured using the NGOs, local NGOs. It's a very, very elaborate, consultative, participatory approach. That's the reason we used technology, we used participation, and we used a very transparent process, decentralized process. That's the reason we gave away to 2,56,000 land rights, benefiting about more than 12 lakh population. Not even a single litigation has come up in this whole process. Because of the engagement of the community, extensive engagement of the community, and because of the use of technology, modern technology. This is how we could avoid disputes. And there is a process. So that's how we manage the revenue department, which owns the land.
I have several questions coming to my mind on land related data and contradictions in the prevalence generally of multiple data sets, but I will not enter that space because we have several questions here. Mr. Sabukuttan PK has a question that he says, after implementing the scheme, sewer entry professionals, whether there was any reduction in the death of sewage workers, any
Yes.
data available for pre and post implementation?
There has been a drastic reduction. And in fact, we can, with humility, I can say that we have put up a system in place where sewer death is impossible. With humility, I can say. We have put in a system. Only thing, that system has to be enforced. There is a strong protocol created for it. And there is a clear accountability is fixed at all levels. So do's and don'ts have been specified, and the sewer entry people have been trained, certified. So that's the reason that, in the past, I can say several. I don't remember that we have any sewer death that has happened in the past 2 years. Sewer death in Odisha. Septic tanks death do happen. They continue to happen because we have not gone beyond the sewer network. We are mechanizing the septic tank cleaning has not been done in the country so far. We have attempted, but it has to be taken forward. But even now, septic tank death can happen anywhere, whether urban or rural. But sewer death in Odisha cannot happen if this strong protocol is put in place. It is put in place. And for the past 2 years, I don't think any death has happened. There has been a drastic improvement.
There are several, thank you very much. There are several questions related to privatization. There's one question related to the FSTP. So, Mr. Siddharth Acharya, respected sir, he says, with regards to scalability of FSTP, did Odisha government invite private sector to operate the FSTP? Can private sector be allowed to invest in the water supply sector through an appropriate financing structure like build, operate, transfer, refurbish, finance, operate, transfer, long-term lease to the private operator, upfront payment of capital expenditure to the operator, etc.? Siddharth Acharya is an MBA student.
Scalability of FSTP, the government invite private sector. There is no need to invite private sector because our community groups can operate. When the local women self-help group and transgender groups can operate FSTP, why should we invite a private contractor to operate it? Right? It's a livelihood for the local community groups. So why should we take away that opportunity? So we need to explore more and more opportunities for engaging the local community, not taking away their opportunity and give them to a private company. That's my humble opinion. So we never explored in that. We have not invested our efforts in that. Rather, we have been, investing our efforts in exploring new opportunities, which are now in the private sector, whether we can deprivatize it and give it to community to bring in more sustainability, give more opportunities for the local communities. So private sector for the water supply sector, again, there is no need actually. Why should we need private to supply water? Providing clean water and air is the government's responsibility. And we have a government machinery for it, created for it. If there is no water, if there is no gel board, then we can always engage. When there is a gel board, we have a machinery. And when that machinery can deliver and has delivered, why should I invite private operator to it? And if we can, through convergence, if we can fund our water supply sector investments through the Finance Commission grants, Central Finance Commission grant, State Finance Commission grant, and the district mineral funds available in Odisha. Why should we go to private to fund, finance, operate, transfer, lease, those kind of models? Just because there is a model, PPP model, not necessary that we should implement. In our context, it may not be required. If some cities or some states do not have enough financial resources, they can tap into private sector, and they should. So it's need based. That's my view.
Also, given you're a student, I'll also give you a bit on this. Is that involving the private sector has a couple of supposedly goals, right? Better financial management, better technical management, better larger investment. In the water and sanitation sector in India, there was a lot of push for private sector at some stage where the government resources were not adequate and the institutions did not have the authority and accountability for being pushed to achieve outcomes. With these conditions changing, for example, the water sanitation sector in the last 20 years has seen more than 100x investment from government of India, which is not the case in most countries. So there is no need for financial participation on these fronts. The costs are very well taken care of. On the other side, the management exercise itself, as public sector institutions improve and much of the focus is on creating more accountability there is limited need for bringing in a third party. And as you might know, internationally, in the water and sanitation sector, right now, the very large companies in the UK, in elsewhere, even in the developing world, are failing at this stage. So there isn't too much of attraction globally on the topic in water and sanitation either. Yeah, you know about Thames Water in the UK, for example, is in a very bad mess. The independent regulator is being questioned very often in newspapers, and there's going to be a restructuring again required there, just in a sense of for a wider context.
There are more and more questions trickling in, and we will try to club some of these in the interest of time. There's in fact another question related to the role of the private consultant. Manisha Bhisht has asked, she says, thank you very much for sharing your journey. You spoke of consultants who are hired, who may or may not go to the site due to lack of amenities. From your experience, can you elaborate on other aspects which are critical for consultants, CSOs, individual, etc., to nurture and deliver?
Availability of professionals, high-end professionals, is the challenge for medium and small towns. Even for Bhubaneswar, it's a challenge. So many a times, we get professionals who are willing to operate from Delhi, Bangalore, and Chennai, not in situ from Bhubaneswar, or they'll come 2 days in a week or something like that. And the
Also from Singapore, sir.
also from
further.
Singapore. Yes, and currently from Nairobi. So that's a limitation. Many high-end professionals we don't get, so we manage with medium.
No, but on the other side, sir, it's also about how open and receptive a government is. It's not by chance that 20 institutions who work in the urban development field are working in Orissa. It's a condition that's created out of a lot of, means freedom to express and to learn and implement their own experiences from elsewhere, their own training, etc. So there is a ecosystem that the government itself has to promote. There were issues there were conditions in the past where maybe a Madhya Pradesh had lots of external institutions working alongside the government at particular points in time. But this is not necessarily the case beyond states like Karnataka or Delhi, where some of these institutions are based. Means that while it was a challenge, it was overcome in a very seamless fashion, and you did have 20 institutions working there. So.
Moving on to other types of questions, there's again coming back to the role of elected representatives. There is one question from Niranjan Sahu regarding how it says, he says, how did your programs initiative involve the elected representatives? You have responded to that already quite a lot in the past set of responses. There's another question related to elected representatives, says, what was exactly the role of Gram Panchayats in this model? So if you could kindly club both these questions in your responses, please.
Role of Gram Panchayats in FSM, yes. In the urban-rural convergence program, there has been a role of Gram Panchayat because the Panchayat Raj department requested us to, in fact, we offered our services and they accepted it, and we worked together to provide septage services for the rural areas also. The Gram Panchayats have been tagged to the nearby urban local body, and then the Gram Panchayats were asked to, procure cesspool vehicle or provide funds to urban local body for procuring cesspool vehicle, which can be utilized to get the septage from the nearby local areas. So that to that extent, they have been sensitized, and then they have been trained, and then they've been mentored. And in fact, we are also supporting them to set up smaller micro FSTPs in the Gram Panchayat areas to manage their own fecal sludge instead of transporting them to the faraway towns. So we have a good collaborative arrangements with the rural development department.
Thank you. Another anonymous attendee says, thank you for a great presentation. I come from the aid and development sector in Southeast Asia, and the global rhetoric around capacity building is shifting. The phrase is widely considered a catch-all for top-down change of formulaic models. When you say capacity building, do you think the ideology here is different?
I don't know what that ideology is. When I speak of capacity building, I speak of the capacity of the teams which will deliver this. The teams, the implementing teams capacity. So that requires the understanding of the program and appropriate orientation about the program, sensitivity about the program, and the know-how about how to implement it and operate and manage. So considering the constraints of the medium and small town, the capacity constraints. So what the state team does with the help of our partners is develop a strong package with a detailed standard operating procedure, step-by-step approach with the flow diagrams, standard formats, standard letters which are used in the implementation process, and the procurement guidelines, and then and supporting the procurement also. Model contract, everything is thought through at the state level. That all happens during the pilot implementation. What all required to implement the program or already experienced, documented, and then manual is created. Implementation manual is created with all supporting things, so that the capacity requirement at the urban local body is minimal, reduced to minimal. So that kind of support is provided, and if required, we also provide additional resources from the state to support, mentor, to visit quite often, clarify their inputs. So this is how we manage the capacity constraints of the urban locals.
Thank you.
And
Sorry.
just in the context of this global capacity building issue that he has raised, he or she has raised, it is essentially much of this was anchored by state institutions. So there was no one coming from across the world to give to impart capacity in Odisha. It was all being built bottom up. So it's not like what I guess the question, the context of that question is. It hasn't got very much to do with development aid and capacity building in that context. Thanks.
In fact, we always say that our models are skilled in Odisha and made in Odisha. So it's all in-house capacity building.
A related question is about the participation of those employed in the informal sector. How do you take into account their needs and requirements as part of local governance?
Again, consultative process, engaging them deeply and engaging the local NGOs also to work with us. So
Yes, you've shared in the presentation as well. Could you please elaborate a little about cost recovery in some of these initiatives, specifically continuous water supply and sanitation services?
yes, there has been a significant improvement in the cost, in the cost recovery, we can say. Well, second thing is that full cost recovery may not be possible and should not be possible when it comes to water. And water is an essential requirement, and I strongly advocate a telescopic tariff for the water supply sector, and it should be metered. All the consumption has to be measured volumetrically, and everybody has to pay for the consumption. That's the reason that we engaged the communities through the Jalsatis, and then there is an inbuilt incentive for them. So that's how our cost recovery has got, not the revenue generation has improved from less than 35% to more than 90% in the drink from tap cities, the 24/7 cities. Because once you give quality service, then people would be willing to pay if it is affordable. That's the reason that if you have to keep it affordable, you can't bring in private. Then it becomes unaffordable. Then cost recovery will become a problem. Then the program will not be sustainable. It will collapse. The contract will collapse. That's the reason we have not engaged. To keep the tariff low, affordable, and to ensure sustainability. Currently, I can say that if you see the entire operating cost and the cost recovered from it, it would be in the range of, say, 40% of the operating cost, which we are able to recover. And 100% recovery may not be possible, and we should not be. All said and done, we pay taxes. GST for every purchase, we pay tax. Right? All these things are the payouts from the people, and they are entitled for minimum basic services, service providers. So some services ought to be subsidized, in my opinion. That's my opinion. And water is one sector which needs subsidy, at least at the grassroots level, at the marginalized poor people who have just one tap, whose consumption is very less. So it has to be affordable. And somebody is having a multi-storied and then using the water for washing the cars, animals, all those things, then you have a differential tariff for. So again, it's subject of debate.
Indeed, privatization and models such as public-private partnerships are employed for high quality infrastructure, particularly if you're looking at transport sector, for instance, where airports and expressways, they're categorized under high quality infrastructure, isn't it, sir? And so there's a graded approach to how much the users would pay. They would pay a higher fee to use that high quality service, infrastructure service. Thank you. Parthu Mukhopadhyay has a question. Could you please elaborate on the use of the district mineral funds throughout this initiative? What were the processes and challenges involved, and how were they overcome?
About 10, 12 districts are covered under the district mineral fund. And substantial resources are available with the district collectors. There is a local district level trust there, a decision making trust. Also, we have a corporation created in the mineral bearing states, the mineral bearing area development corporation. Odisha has Bombatsi, Odisha mineral bearing district development corporation, which is a corporation which operates at the state level, which it has a CEO, and there is a committee headed by the chief secretary. And we accessed a huge funds from that. In fact, we accessed more than 1,000 crores, not a small money. In fact, that amount is larger than the 1 year's annual budget, the water sector budget. So we made a proposal for providing 24/7 water supply in the mineral bearing district in the cities, and then placed before the committee, and then Justice Anang Patnaik, former Justice of Supreme Court, he is the oversight authority for the entire country for this, and then it was placed before him. He reviewed it, and then, in fact, I have written this in my book also. Initially, he was very enthusiastic. Later on, somebody has said that 24/7 has not been implemented in the entire country. So this proposal is not feasible. So don't give your funds. So he telephoned and said that hold on to my consent. I am reviewing it. So then we in fact fought back, struggled, and then convinced him, and then got money. 80% of what was promised we got. Only the top up for basic infrastructure we got fund from the mineral Ombatsi, and 20% then drink from tap component. I said that if you don't believe us, if you think that it cannot be delivered, you don't need to give the 20%. You give only 80%, which is for the hardcore infrastructure, which otherwise is available for the rural area also for any other project. This 20% DFT component top up we will do from the state budget through convergence, and he kindly consented it. He was so considerate, and then we took that 80% of funds, which itself is more than 800 crore, and then we implemented it and commissioned the drink from tap 24/7 supply, and we requested Honorable Justice A.N. Patnaik to grace the event as the guest of honor. He was kind to be present in that, to dedicating that facility. So we have successfully demonstrated the 24/7 supply, leveraging the mineral funds. This is at the state level for the cities. Apart from that, we have also leveraged funds from the district collectors through the district trust. So maximum extent we have leveraged the funds. The state budget was, kept for the non-mineral districts, which do not have the mineral source.
We're sort of coming closer to fewer and fewer questions. And there seems to be one question which would serve as a concluding one. Yugantika Mohapatra has a question. She says, Bhubaneswar is my hometown and it is wonderful to see it transform over the last 20 years. What other challenges do we face majorly than the team is looking at? Thank you for all your wonderful work.
Thank you so much for your kind words. Any city, wherever we have worked, and the interventions have worked, and then transformation has happened. Now the challenge is to sustain this, because the cities are fast growing. And the larger the cities, the higher the growth rate is, and the higher the slum population also is. So we need to cope with the growing demands and keep pace with this process. Instead of chasing, we should be ahead of the problems. So it's a challenge. It's a 24/7 challenge for any urban manager.
Thank you so much indeed, Mativatanan sir and Shubhagato. It's been such an honor to have you both be part of the CPR CSH workshop series. really very, very enriching to hear your responses to the many complex questions that came, and also the amount of, inspiration you've given us to explore similar efforts in other states as well and support the government in this endeavor. We'd like to thank you very much once again for joining us at this workshop series. Rama, over to you, please, for concluding the session. Any final thoughts from you both, Mathivanan sir and Shubhagato? Would you like to say a few concluding words?
Yeah, wanted to thank CPR for giving this opportunity and also for supporting Odisha state, especially the Urban Development Department, all these years. 10 years, you have been a great support. You have been a partner in our transformative journey. Thank CPR for that. And then thank the participants for their patient hearing and insightful questions. This session has enhanced our learning also. Thank you so much. It has been a great learning experience. Thanks.
Rama, would you like to say a few words?
Okay, finally, I want to thank both G. Mathivathanan and Shubhagato for this detailed presentation, and also for the patience to respond so many of these questions. Thank you very much. Yeah, good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all.
Good evening.